The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. We want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah and happy holidays. It's a very exciting time of the year. I love this time of year because it doesn't matter which holiday you celebrate, it's about the lights. Everybody celebrates with some form of light, and there is always something about coming from darkness into light. I love the Hanukkah story, this whole idea of somebody saying, you know, you've only got enough oil for this much, you're not going to make it. But there's something miraculous about the human spirit and the universe as a whole, and somehow they make it. It's just, what a story. We just, the other day, were decorating our Christmas tree, and we have these wonderful little ornaments that make me so happy. They're hand-blown glass pigs with wings. And I was saying to my husband and my son, do you remember what the story, because every ornament has a story, and by the end of the night, they're like, oh, another, what's the story behind this one, right? But I said, does everybody remember what the pigs with the wings story is? Because way back when, they were telling us that my son probably wasn't going to talk, probably wasn't going to be in kindergarten with neurotypical peers, probably wasn't going to be caught up, probably wasn't going to go to college, you know, whatever. And we love The Lion in Winter when Eleanor turns and she says something, and he says, when pigs fly, and she says, there'll be pork in the treetops by morning. That woman is like my 23rd great grandmother, really, in terms of genealogy. And I'm like, yes, grandma, there'll be pork in the treetops by morning. That's what we said to autism. I love the spirit of, okay, so-and-so said you can't do that. All right, stand back, watch us do it, okay? And that's part of what Hanukkah is all about. That's part of the story behind Hanukkah. Yes, we can. Si se puede, we can do it. Hold hands, right? Anyway, we're here this morning on this lovely Thursday morning. We got a big show for you, lots of toys to talk about today, plus really fabulous interview with Christina Adams, because she just came back from India. We're going to do all that. But first, we want to remind you that we love to interact with you. So Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can interact with us, while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, lots to do. But there is a tab up in the upper right-hand corner that says blog. If you click on that, it's going to take you to some information and the link to our Autism Live Toy and Gift Guide 2017, which I really want to encourage you to check out. Got some great gifts for a lot of great people, and when we tried to space it out into different kinds of things that would be good for everybody of every age on the autism spectrum. So there's all of that. But remember that, you know, we love to hear from you regardless of whatever. Samantha's shown you some of the different ways you can watch, some of the different ways you can participate. Remember that on the live feature, which we're having a little bit of issue with this morning, but on the live feature, if you put your cursor in the box that says your question and you type and hit enter, it typically shows up here on my screen. We'll see if it does or not today. And then you and I can have a conversation, and ever so much better than that, you can have a conversation with our experts, which leads me to my next point. We have a lot of experts on the show. I'm not one of them. I'm an autism mom, and I'm a former educator, and I adore you, and I want you to have everything. We talked about this last week with mindfulness, you know, pray for other people that, you know, that they get all the things that they want in and I absolutely want you to get all the things that you want. I want to help to connect you to resources because it matters to me. Because why? Because somebody helped me. And then when I said to them, what can I do to repay you? They said, pay it forward. Well, here I am, ladies and gentlemen, wanting to pay it forward to you, to give you some hope, some inspiration, and some information, right? If we got those three, there's nothing we can't do. Si se puede. Hold hands, we can do it. Okay, having said all of that, it's time for our jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to, first of all, make fun of it. I'm just going to be honest, because why not? Life is short. Let's make fun of rude definitions that use the same words in the definition, which I think we got a little bit of today in both of our. But so we've been talking about the different kinds of play. The first thing that we talked about was functional pretend play, right? That's the one where you have a kitchen and we're going to play kitchen, right? And it's got dishes and it's got a little sink and we put a pan on the stove and we're playing kitchen. It's functional pretend. We're trying to look like the grown-ups, and it's very, very useful to do that. Then we went on to symbolic play. That's when you've got a toy and it's not quite the thing, and I've got literally nothing on my desk, but I pick up my iPad and I say that it's a phone, right? Anything can be a phone. So I'm endowing the iPad with the qualities of a phone. Then from there we move on to imaginative play where there's nothing. I'm just miming the phone. Hello? Yes, no, she's here for you. Hold on a second. Let me see if she's available, right? And I pass you the phone. That's symbolic. That's imaginative play, right? Then we want to put it all together, right? Isn't that part of what we all want to do always? Like we learn a lesson here, we learn a lesson here, we learn a lesson here, and let's put it all together to arrive at something great. So what is our jargon today? It's sociodramatic play. This is when, well, first of all, let's take a look at our actual definition. Let's do that. Play which involves the acting out of scripts, scenes inspired by real life, books, cartoons, and other media. Individuals assume roles using themselves and or other characters like dolls, figurines, and puppets as they interact together on common themes. Doesn't that sound nice and dry, like a stick in Texas? Let's take a look at what our working definition is. This is make-believe or pretend play. And by the way, some of you may not participate in Halloween, but I tell you, go the week after Halloween and buy all the costumes that they have in the stores when they're like $1, and put them together in a box or a trunk or in a closet. Oh my gosh, this is some really good fun play for our kiddos, and they get to take on other characteristics of other people. I especially love when you got little kids and you can find the fireman and the policeman and the doctor, and all of those kinds of, because then they can role play and play those people. It's when you take the functional pretend kitchen, right? And you add an apron to it, and somebody puts on the apron and they go, I'm the grandma, right? And then somebody else, they've got, dog ears that are in a headband that they can put on. They go, I'm the dog. And somebody else, puts, a thing over their head and they go, I'm the baby, right? And then we all start to play roles. And when we play roles, we try not to be ourselves. We take on characteristics of other people. Well, if you stop and think about that, that teaches us to think of, well, what would it be like if I'm the dog? That's perspective taking. That's, social skills, it's executive function skills, it's cognition. It's just like everything you've been working on goes whoosh and makes a tree. So sociodramatic play, so useful. And a lot of times our kids start out and they don't know what to do with sociodramatic play. If you bring them around other kids, especially, we talk from time to time about one of the greatest therapists there is on the face of the earth is the bossy gut girl. The girl that's just a little bit older, a little bit more together than everybody else, and she's like, you do this. And you know what happens when you play with a bossy gut? I was a bossy gut girl. I'm just saying, I'm still a bossy gut girl, right? But we make the best therapists because we'll go, no, you do this. We're the cruise directors, right? You do this, you do this, you do this, and now we're going to play. And then you know what happens with the bossy gut girl, which never happens with a therapist who's trained, rarely. But the bossy gut girl then decides she's going to change the whole thing. Nope, I've changed my mind. I want to be the dog. Now you're the mother. And sometimes that causes frustration with our kids, but it also teaches flexibility, following rules, flexibility, figuring it out, taking perspectives. Sociodramatic play, super duper fun, super duper fabulous for our kids, and a way to take the functional pretend play, the symbolic play, and the imaginative play and put it all together and make it really social. Super, super fabulous. Get some costumes or costume pieces. Even if you have to start with, you know how they have those things on the stick that are like mustaches and you take pictures? Start there. That's a form of sociodramatic play, and have a ball with it, because that's what play is all about, having fun. Don't be dismayed if if your kiddos don't love it the first time out. Partner it with something that is fun. Like we take the picture with the mustaches and then we look at the pictures and laugh hysterically and tickle while we're doing it. Eventually they'll like taking the pictures. It's all good. Okay, moving on to our question of the day. So if you could be anyone for one day, who would you be? Now, the truth is that so many of the times I would say, oh my gosh, well, I want to be Oprah. Can I please be Oprah for a day? I would love to be Oprah for a day. But, and then my second choice would be to be Ellen for a day. These are the people that I want to be, but they've been having such a tough time with the fires up in Santa Barbara. Nobody wants to be them right now, and our best thoughts are with them. But who would you want to be if you could be anybody for just a day? And think about that. It's a little bit of a mental vacation. It's a little bit of mindfulness. Who would you want to be and why? And then think like just the fun parts of that, of imagining if you could be somebody else for a day, and imagine how fun that can be for a kid. And truthfully, any of us can be anybody for 5 minutes if we want to, because we can do it in our imagination. But this is why sociodramatic play is so much fun. It's why people love Halloween. You get to be somebody else and see what it's like when people interact with you as if you were somebody else. It's a very refreshing thing. It's a mini vacation. So who would you like to be? Write in and tell us on Facebook. So our topic, though, for this week, one of the things that we're talking about is fake it until you make it. So often, we run into things, we all do. We're all, I certainly am guilty of this at least 7 times a week, where something happens and we go, well, I don't know how to do that. And a lot of times we could stop right there and go, that's just, I don't know how to do that. I know somebody recently who applied for a job and they were like, oh, there's a job skill on there that I don't know how to do. And my response was, oh, okay, but that's something you could go and learn how to do almost overnight. Like, you're going to seriously let that prevent you from applying for that job? Now, it would be different if they said they wanted you to have 5 years experience doing something you've never ever done before. But even then, that's a directive. It's like, okay, well, how do I get that 5 years of experience? If this is the job I want, how do I get to the point where I know how to do that? And usually the first step is to pretend that you know how to do it. Right? Or find somebody to teach you how to do it, and while they're teaching you how to do it, pretend you know how to do it while they're explaining it to you. There is something to be said for faking it until you make it. Obviously, we have to take that with a little grain of salt. I don't want somebody going in and, doing surgery who doesn't know how to do it, right? But before somebody becomes a surgeon, they do a bunch of different things during which they're overwhelmed from time to time and think, I'm not going to be able to do that, but they fake it until they make it, right? I know that when my son was diagnosed with autism, I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. And that honestly was the truth for me, that I just was like, I don't have it in me to do this. I don't have it in me to learn what I need to know, to be patient like I need to be patient. I would have guaranteed you. In fact, I look back and I go, I don't think I did. But somehow we got through it. And I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, it was like, well, I'm just going to act like I know what I'm doing, because what are my choices here? I can sit here and do nothing, which doesn't accomplish anything, or I can act like I know what I'm doing, and surely if I'm going completely in the wrong direction, somebody will tell me. And I have been told that from time to time. And of course, there are those times when people go, no, I watched you for 2 years go in the wrong direction, but I figured you knew more about it than I did. Okay, but fake it till you make it. It can be a very freeing thing. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Anybody can do it. Anybody can. So fake it till you make it, and then teach your kids how to fake it until they make it. And it's a fabulous thing. So some of the different things that are going on today, we're going to talk to Christina Adams, who is the brilliant author of the book A Real Boy. She's become a real advocate for camel milk and has been traveling the world. She stopped in with us in the fall to talk about her trip to Cuba. Well, now she's been to India and just says things like, well, when I was in Rajasthan, rolls trippingly off of her tongue. And there was a time when she'd never been there. So I think she just decided, I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to figure it out, right? We've got the fabulous, fabulous inventor of the Tangle. You're going to love hearing how this wonderful toy that's taken the world by storm has so much more behind it than you previously thought. And then we've got another toy inventor, Jillian Lacretz, who's going to be with us talking about Yowie Baby. If there's a baby in your future or in your present, or if you know somebody who has a baby, this is the hottest gift of the holiday season for a baby. And we got ever so much more and lots of surprises coming up on this edition of Autism Live. Stick with us.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to
Jeez, let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them.
Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
Always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Spaniel? Tangle, tangle, tangle! Roll it, curl it, turn it, twist it, it's a puzzle, it's a game, it'll never be the same! Tangle! Suru Tangle, each sold separately.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm sitting here tangling myself. If you have seen these toys before, you're going to love this interview because you're going to find out more about this fascinating toy. And if you've never seen them before, we're so excited to introduce you to them. You know, in our toy guide that Tangle, we could have given it so many different awards, but the award that we gave it was the top toy for adults. Now, I know that probably shocks you, but it won't by the end of this interview because it's pretty fabulous. So here's the special treat that I have for you. Joining us right now via Skype is Richard X. Zawitz. And guess what he is? He is the inventor of Tangle. So Mr. Richard X. Zawitz, we are so excited to have you joining us from your solarium, which looks like you're on a tropical island. But this is just fascinating to me. First of all, you know, we have to say about it's a fidget toy, that's what it is. But I want to know, where did you get the inspiration to create this?
Well, good morning. Nice to be here with you folks. I'm so happy to be able to support you and be here. Well, the idea came, it's an aggregate of how it came about, but I am a so-called child of the 60s. And I studied Asian art and Asian philosophy and Asian art history, and I'm a sculptor. And part of my search in college at the University of Hawaii was for something I called essential energy. I hope you have all day because this is a long story.
It's fascinating already. I'm thrilled.
I'll keep it simple.
Okay.
So I have, I guess, a basic urge within me, a philosophical urge. So I was looking for what I called essential energy, but being that I'm spatial and I like form and I have a natural ability to sculpt or carve, I started carving stone and wood. I started to come up with ideas for what I thought was essential energy. I had an amazing professor from India, and he enabled me to discover curving or spiraling energy. So from what I thought was an essence, which is curving or spiraling energy or waving or circular energy, I discovered that all things in nature curve and that all things in society or culturally curve, such as in artworks. You'll find throughout history, both in formal and informal art, there's curves, there's waves, there's knots. And I also found that in science as well, that everything from quantum particles to galaxies have curves or waves or spirals. So I made it my life's work to figure out why, and Tangle seems to be the result of sort of a universal energy form. It's purely accidental. The first manifestation was my senior thesis in college, which was a stone carving that curved. And then from there, I started just carving things and creating things that curve. And one day in a loft studio in Boston, where I eventually ended up in the mid-70s, I carved a wooden device, a sculpture that had all 90-degree segments, but it was meant to be a one-of-a-kind sculpture. And it moved, and everybody played with it and couldn't get their hands off of it. And I said, maybe I have something here. Then eventually, 5 years later, I took it upon myself to go to Hong Kong and make that thing in plastic so that I could try and reach more people with my invention. That's the essence of how I invented it. There's a bit more to the story, but I think that might answer your question.
It's so fascinating, and it is addictive. I mean, I've sat here the whole time you were talking, and I was completely involved in what you were saying, but I can't put it down. I gotta say, you got it in all different colors and textures, and I've taken one apart here, and I'm going to connect it with another one so that you guys can see, and I could have taken it apart at any point and put it back together, that it's endless what you can do with these. Absolutely endless. So one of these that I've got here in my hand is a metallic one that's smooth, and the other one that I've got here in my hand is a metallic one that's got bumps all over it. And in terms of a sensory thing, the experience of both of these is totally different. And I can't stop playing with the metallic smooth one. And people have asked me, they've said, okay, why was this the adult toy? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too, but one of the things that really struck me is that the fidget toys that are all out there seem to be for kids that are of a certain age, like the 8 to 12 range. And then beyond that, it gets a little bit like it's not socially acceptable. But Tangle, I have seen these on executives' desks, and there is no one that can't play with one of these, and it's totally socially acceptable. And it's endless, the things that you know, in the commercial we saw that there were people making jewelry out of them. You could do all kinds of things with this, and just to have it on the desk, an amazing, amazing thing. Now, were you surprised when we named it a toy for adults?
Absolutely not.
I thought so.
Absolutely not. In fact, you know, I never intended it to be a toy. I had no idea. I think I left toys behind, although I have children. But when it came out, I intended it to be a sculpture, so I have these larger models I want to show you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that.
So
That's
this
so
is what we
cool.
call the original chrome tangle, but this was one of the first ones I brought out. And the idea was for it to be a manipulative sculpture. And my first intention in 1981 was for Tangle to be a device that anybody could be creative with, a sculpture. So I really had no idea it was going to evolve into a toy. I thought it was just a sculpture and you'd put it on your desk and you could change the shape. My goal was to get something creative into everybody's hands possible. That was what I intended. And that, by the way, is still my goal. But it was not really going to be a toy for children or adults or boys or girls or moms or dads. But what has come about in the last 37 years is that Tangle now reaches, and this is an informal demographic, but it reaches just as many adults as it does children, just as many boys as it does girls, and it multiculturally. We're in 90 countries and growing. And I also, believe it or not, I get testimonials from individuals that have pets that they give the Tangle to and they play with. For example, no joke, parrots love Tangle. That is no kidding. For some fascinating reason, parrots love Tangle. So I couldn't have dreamt where this was going to go, and 150 million of these things later that have been given away or sold or traded or something over 37 years. Couldn't have dreamt it, but that was the goal originally, was to find a universal energy form that would enable people to feel creative. That was the goal. But over the years, for example, I have been contacted by numerous therapeutic organizations, and one of them was the National Autistic Society here in Northern California. They said, we're using these for autistic children. I thought, how absolutely wonderful that that could occur. And so that was the beginning of my understanding of the therapeutic potentials. And since then, we have testimonials from all over the world for the special needs spectrum for both adults and children. And so it's just a beautiful thing that Tangle is able to accomplish the benefits and the necessary therapeutic uses for individuals of all ages, all genders, and all cultures all over the world. So it's kind of for a person like me who, is an artist who tries to reach as many people as possible, it's a fantastic thing.
Well, it is a fantastic thing. And I have to say, as an autism mom and a member of the autism community, this is so great, because anytime you can give your kids something, and adults, because we've recommended it especially this year for adults, but really we could have made it for absolutely anybody. But anytime you can give somebody something that reduces their stress and gives them the ability to focus on something, because sometimes there's a part of our brain that we need in order to get to and focus. We need to have something going on with our hands. Boy, I've seen that time and time again as a teacher, that if you give somebody, it's just like when you're driving your car and you kind of get lost in driving your car. You're aware, but you're working out a problem, and suddenly you get home and you're relaxed and you've worked out the problem. It's because you were on the right side of your brain, and I swear that's what these things do. They get you on the right side of your brain. I am in love with this thing that I just made, because it's part blue and part gold, and I've moved it around and I can do all kinds of things with it. I'm wondering, so you created this and now it's taken off and all over the world, and you've seen some of the things that people do with this. What's been the most fascinating thing that you've seen that somebody has done with a Tangle?
Oh my goodness, so many things. Gosh, I mean, you can name an individual. They've done something different, but one thing that really intrigued me over the years was I did a promotion in Turkey, and they had a contest to make the longest tangle. So they assembled about 100,000 of them, and there were about 10,000 individuals connecting them across the Bosphorus Bridge between East and West in Turkey. And I guess that was one of the most fascinating things. But, what's beautiful about the tangle is that there's no right or wrong with a tangle. So you can pick it up and manipulate it. Somebody can't say that looks bad because it doesn't. Somebody can say that looks good, that's fine. I want to go back to something though. When we were just talking about the fidgets, the latest thing, these fidget spinners, not that I'm intentionally want to put them down, but I find them a diversion rather than something that helps the brain, and I think teachers are showing that too. But but more to my point is, so there's some science I wanted to explain. There's something called fidget to focus. So one of the reasons you feel good is, in the psychologist, PhD, named Dr. Roland Rotz, wrote a book called Fidget to Focus. So it turns out that when you use your left hand and right hand simultaneously, it engages the brain stem, which causes left brain and right brain to work more efficiently simultaneously.
That's what it is.
Which releases serotonin and dopamine, the pleasure and learning chemicals. And this helps individuals think and feel better and more efficiently. And this obviously works miracles with the autistic spectrum as well. So that's a bit of the science behind why we do this. So it's called fidget to focus. So this whole fidget craze, although I'm thankful for it because it's brought a lot more attention to Tangle, and my new distributor called Zuru is responsible for discovering Tangle. I've been out there in the weeds for 37 years doing this, and very dedicated to it, but now we're doing a lot of important work all over the world to promote the fidget and the therapeutic use. So just so I give you a little bit more background on that, but anybody, anywhere, anytime can create a masterpiece with Tango. So that's the beauty of it. You don't have to be extraordinary. And the whole point for me was, when I invented this thing, I used to say, you too can become an artist. So that was the whole point.
Well, and I have made the sculpture now in my hand that I'm in love with, that I want to put on my desk.
We're going to put it in a Museum of Modern Art. Don't move it.
Telling you, I don't want to disturb it because it's so beautiful. That could be on my Christmas tree. Now, so here you are, you created this thing. I'm imagining that from time to time you're in an airport or you're someplace and you see somebody playing with a tangle. Do you ever go up to them and go, I invented that? And do they believe you?
I don't exactly do it that way, but a lot of times if I see it in a shop or somewhere in the world, I go in and try and rearrange the way it looks, or I try and
you can't help yourself. You play with it.
I can't help myself. You're a mom.
Yeah.
I'm a dad and a grandpa. I have 3 grandchildren, and isn't it wonderful to see one of your offspring? No pun intended. It's a little bit like a spring.
Yeah.
But isn't it wonderful to see something as an artist and as a sculptor? There's something interesting about how that works, because I'm a sculptor, and I've done a lot of stone carving and wood carving. So when I create something, it's for me. I can't imagine the process itself, but for me, it's like giving birth to something. It can take me years to create a work of art sometimes, and finally finishing it and polishing it. And so each one of these is like my child. I know it sounds bizarre and nobody pays attention to me anymore, but
I think we get that. That's a lovely thing.
I still believe each one has importance. That's crazy, but it's true.
I don't think so at all. That makes me happy to think that's
people playing with them or at the airport. Yes, I do want to go up to them. In fact, as now that I think back, I have seen people playing with them. I said, no, maybe you want to try this way and do this and do that. Not for my ego, because I don't need that anymore. I'm too old for that. But I do feel great when people play with a tangle, to be frank with you.
Absolutely. And, we haven't talked about the fact that therapeutically, just the fact that you can take them apart and push them together and the twisting of the hands. This is great for hand-eye coordination. It's fine motor. There's a little bit of gross motor involved in it, visual motor. I mean, these OTs love these. They are absolutely fabulous. We have talked a little bit about the fact that they come in all different colors. You can get them in solid, or I'm showing you two here that are many different colors, but they have different color themes to them. And then I love the metal ones. And
then we have the textured like this.
Oh, where do you get the big fat ones like that?
Well, you can get them through tanglecreations.com.
Okay.
This is called the original Tangle, and then we have another one that you're going to love that actually we do have a lot in the special needs spectrum. This one
that's awesome.
has different textures on it and different colors, and people love this one. Then the other one that I think you're going to love is the one we're using for our Brain Tools brand. It's a Tangle, but this is very well used for the special needs spectrum because it's very durable, but it's got a synthetic rubber coating, which is safe for anyone, including chewing.
Okay.
And it's manipulative, and it's got these little textures on it. So it's a wonderful product to play with and to just manipulate and touch. And
super cool.
So that's another one I thought you might like to see. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of I'll show you one that's super cool too. This one is really not promoted. This one we use for jewelry. It has little Swarovski crystals on it. So it's a cute little thing, and you can wear it. But that's a different story. Now, here's a brand new one that we're just bringing out, and it has a texture, and it has this process that I absolutely adore called water transfer, and we put these beautiful patterns on it, but if you can see, we also have the textures on there too. It's brand new, and it's coming out in 2018. So it's a wonderful device to play with. I absolutely love it. Then last but not least to show you is we have our Relax Tangle. And as you mentioned, it is a beautiful thing to help you relax. So this one, we have this rubber coating, but it's smaller, and you have this really nice tactile finish to it.
Oh, I love it.
And it's easy to play with, and it just makes you feel good. So this is another one that we have out now called Tangle Relax.
Love it. What a great, great gift to give to somebody. And I have to be honest, too, that they're all different price points. There's something for everyone. And these ones that I'm showing here, I mean, honestly, this can be a great reinforcer for somebody. You get them one, and then if they're working towards something, and you want to give them a treat for something to reinforce good behavior, you get them a second one which they can attach together, and you can keep building on them, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I think there's a Tangle in everybody's budget, and it's great to have something, whether it's your college student, kids are using these on college campuses. It's socially acceptable, and it's relaxing and working on so many different things. So you can get these in almost any retailer, but if you want to get some of the more specialty ones, where's the best place to go?
Well, the biggest retailer right now that has Tangles is Walmart and Target and Toys R Us, but they're in all of the specialty retailers, the mom and pop specialty shops, and also you can get them, I'm pretty sure, through most of the autistic professionals know about Tangle, and I know that they work as distributors too. There may be specific ones that you can find, but I know very well that they're available through most of the professional autistic societies in America and worldwide, by the way, because we've been working with autistic professionals for at least, I'm going to say about 20 years now, since we put our first website out and we had email. Some of the first contacts That's my dog. Shush.
We got to see the dog before, and she is precious. So she's just having her voice be heard.
My little noisy thing.
It's all
Anyway,
okay.
they're available through most of the professional autistic societies as well.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us, because I now know more about this. And I have to say, I loved it before, but knowing that all that thought and that positive energy and the expectation of positive energy went into this just makes me love it that much more. So we congratulate you on the fact that this was our top gift for adults in 2016.
That is really an honor, and I really appreciate it. I really
17.
appreciate being with you.
I'm telling the
But I
wrong year. 2017.
Don't rush it. And then one last thing is that this is my mission statement, is that I will not feel satisfied until every man, woman, and child on this planet feels the joy of the creative process. And I believe that Tangle can change the course of history by doing that, away from, forgive me, fire and fury towards peace and creativity. That's my mission.
We love that. And we want to thank you and thank Zuru, because you guys made a generous donation to our Sensitive Santa event so that we were able to give a bunch of these away to people who wouldn't otherwise have had them. So thank you so much.
That's beautiful. That's fantastic. Well, thanks so much.
And hug your dog for us. She's precious. And thank you so much, everybody. Make sure there's at least one of these in every stocking and for every Hanukkah event. Tangle. It's a fabulous, fabulous thing. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more Autism Live, so stick with us.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before. Are these your hands?
As a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to get back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it?
And for the first time, I am looking.
What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids.
When you're looking back at me, now I understand what...
None of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us.
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes, and for the first time, I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. Now I understand why. Love is for the first time.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so lucky because joining us via Skype right now, we have the fabulous, the wonderful, the spectacular Bonnie Yates. She's a special education attorney with Heerji and Chow. Bonnie, so thrilled as always to have you with us.
Well, Shannon, right back at you. I was just, sort of thinking about the fact that it's the end of the year again, another year in the trenches, right?
Another trip around the sun.
Yeah, so I'm super glad to be here. I'm going to talk really fast about all the disclaimers and stuff because I want to get to the substance of what I want to talk about today.
Yes, ma'am.
So, disclaimers. Autism Live answers questions using California law and federal law because I'm licensed in California and the federal laws relating to disabilities and disability discrimination and whatnot are in force in all the 50 states. So if you have a problem and you're in another state, I can't help you with it because I'm not licensed there. And if you have a problem, you should contact an attorney, probably through the COPA website if you're in another state. If you're in this state, you can contact Hirji and Chow in Culver City, Hirji and Chow, CHAU. We will give you a free consultation if you need one. Our phone number is 310-391-0330. And now I'm going to rush ahead because something has been going on this week and the week before that was really bothering me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. The office is involved in a due process hearing, and the school district and its attorney representatives are doing everything they can to prevent us from being able to introduce some evidence that we have of child abuse. And I don't want to go more into the details of the case. I don't think that's appropriate, but it doesn't matter. What I found myself thinking was that I was really bothered by this idea that the school district attorney just plays to win. And I started thinking about these discussions we had in law school about prosecutors and how the prosecutor has a higher ethical obligation in prosecuting somebody for a crime, and the prosecutor needs to make sure that an innocent person doesn't get convicted. And there's even, discussions about how it's better for a guilty person to go free than for an innocent person to be convicted. And I thought, well, I think that a school district is in a position of greater responsibility with respect to suspected child abuse. And I wonder kind of what the law says about who's a mandated reporter in California and what it means to be a mandated reporter. So I started looking into this, and I got very interested in the issue because there are specific trainings for school personnel about mandated reporting of child abuse, and I thought it was highly relevant to our show because we already know that kids with disabilities are more likely to be abused than kids without disabilities, and I thought it was a sad but appropriate follow-up to our discussion about bullying. So
Absolutely. Can we just pause for a second, Bonnie, and explain to people who don't know what a mandated reporter is?
Yes. So in the state of California, the law designates a lot of people as mandated reporters if they have a suspicion of child abuse, and that includes public school teachers, their aides, basically everybody that works in a public school. And it also applies to law enforcement people, to therapists, to medical doctors, pretty much anybody that would be, in the chain of learning about or observing abuse. And so the questions come up not in terms of who's a mandated reporter, but in terms of what you need to do if you are a mandated reporter. So in California, and so I have to read a lot today because I took a lot of notes. I did the training, pretty much online. You can do it too if you want. So in 2013, 89% of the reports of child abuse made in California were made by mandated reporters, led by school personnel, who made 22% of the reports of suspected abuse and neglect. So perhaps my experience with this school district that is trying as hard as it can to keep the evidence out of the hearing is not typical. Did you have a question, Chen?
Well, I just wanted to say because for people who don't have any idea what mandated reporter is, I've had to be a mandated reporter in my life. You are forced, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have a choice. If you see something that you suspect is child abuse, you are mandated, you are forced, you are legally responsible that you must report it. And there are actually, if you don't, there are actions that can be taken against you legally because you have that. You are mandated. You must report. I just wanted to throw that in.
And that's a good point. And I do have some more specifics about that. But
Good.
I think what your understanding, Shannon, is if you aren't sure the way the law works in California, they want you to err on the side of reporting.
Yes.
Which makes sense. So in terms of school personnel and their role in this, the training notes that school personnel have more access to kids than most people and more opportunities to observe. So these are some of the policy reasons. You may be the trusted adult to whom someone reports. Now, we didn't always have laws relating to mandated reporters and child abuse. This started in about 1962 when people started thinking that physicians should report child abuse, and then the law expanded. So if you're a mandated reporter, as Shannon is properly pointing out, it's imperative that you know how to respond. And so all of this is codified in California Penal Code 11164 through 11174.3. But although I didn't do it today, Shannon, I will send you a link for the training. So this whole statutory scheme called CANRA is from 1980, and it talks about the protections and liabilities that a mandated reporter has and the procedures for school personnel to report. Part of the reason that's important is they want to make clear that reporting it to the principal or somebody else at school is not adequate. You're required to go to law enforcement, either DCFS or local law enforcement. You can't just report it at school. And then they say that there are red flags for abuse and neglect, and oftentimes these things are abused at school. Now, are observed at school. This is a little different from what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a situation in which a school district knows that abuse has been committed and they're not making what I consider to be a mandatory report. But we're doing this because kids with disabilities can't really always speak up for themselves, and their parents need to know about how to protect them. So teachers and other school personnel are often on the front lines in terms of recognizing physical signs, observing family dynamics, and an educator should be able to define physical abuse, provide examples of various types, be familiar with the physical signs and behavior indicators that should raise a suspicion of maltreatment. And a mandated reporter must make a report whenever a mandated reporter knows or reasonably suspects child abuse or neglect. And so you see the standard isn't actual knowledge, but if a reasonable person in the position of the reporter would suspect abuse, you're going to be liable if you don't report in that situation. And then they also throw in this word neglect. Neglect is really a form of or a subset of abuse. Neglect would be, sending somebody to school in soiled clothes, or sending them to school with old food in their lunchbox, or, having other adults that don't seem like they're very safe people drive the kid to school, etc. So if you suspect, report. It's not required that you have proof of abuse. You just have to have, a founded suspicion. So then they go on to train about what physical abuse includes. Well, it includes physical injuries that can result from over-discipline or inappropriate punishment. And it can be anything from a minor injury to death. Any injury that requires medical treatment is considered outside the realm of normal disciplinary procedures. Because, of course, you run into questions about, well, what kind of discipline can a teacher use in the classroom without it being corporal punishment? But, I think usually the cases aren't really close cases, the ones that, end up in the paper and so on. So what you're to look for if you're a mandated reporter are things like an unusual pattern of bruising, a strap mark, a belt loop, a patterned mark, or a burn. And red flags are injuries with an improbable explanation, injuries that are unusual for the child's age, a history of previous injury, and a parent who fails or delays to seek medical care, or a statement by a child.
Parents, I think, sometimes get, when they hear about teachers having to report if they see something, and they get paranoid about it. And I just wanted to point out to parents, don't be paranoid about it. That's a safeguard for all of our kids to make sure that kids are being kept safe. And if you are a good parent not, neglecting your child, that all comes out. And I was saying that there have been cases in the past where autism parents have been reported against as potential abuse or neglect when it had more to do with autism, but almost always that comes out. But when a parent gets furious and gets upset because something has been reported, I don't think that helps the situation. So if you hear that you've been reported against, be calm. I think that law enforcement sees that when you want what's best for your child, it's not something nefarious is going on. But
Right,
that's
and
just what I was saying.
my focus is not on parents. My focus is what parents need to know to protect their kids from things that happen outside in the community, including school.
Absolutely.
So in terms of behavioral indicators, any forced or coerced or accomplished without consent, any sex act in that category has to be reported. They really stress in here, if you're unsure if something is or isn't actionable, that you should call. And the age for statutory rape in California is anybody under 16 years of age. So that would be, something else that could be looked at. You aren't going to have a 15-year-old that's, having a consensual relationship with an adult. That's not permitted under the law. Now, they also have a discussion about how school personnel, because we're talking about, theoretically little kids all the way up through high school, have to be knowledgeable regarding normative sexual behavior in children. And there's kind of an interesting link if people want to look at it. There's a whole sidebar discussion about what is normal sexual behavior of children, which people are uncomfortable with talking about, but it's also important to the discussion because if a child is doing something that's really not concerning or threatening and it's developmentally typical, then it's potentially in a different category that creates kind of a gray area. But if you've got a child that's sexually precocious, either in terms of acting or talking, or if the relationship seems to be an aggressive one, or there's a huge difference in age, or the person is having a strong anxiety or anger or emotional reaction, that would be a red flag. Other red flags are the person knows too much about sex for their age, they engage in sexual role play, they're molesting other children, particularly younger children, or they're making sexually explicit drawings. Disclosure can be difficult due to involvement of proximate adults. People frequently change their stories, and apparently, this is a real surprise to me, abusers are usually people that are popular in the community and well-liked, so children and also other adults, as we go on with this, feel that it's shameful or wrong to report feared abuse. So, one of their big talking points is that all children's reports should be taken seriously, and that's why you have to be familiar with what normal sexual behavior is for, a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, and so on, because there is some differentiation there that might be hard to make. So you look at sort of the overall behavior of the child, and you see how they're functioning. You're also supposed to watch for things like kids that are showing up with expensive gifts, kids that are secret, kids that have money, like unexplained large amounts of money, kids that are truant, kids that are tired in school, kids that have criminal involvement, or kids that have signs of physical abuse. So this is one of the things we see too, Shannon, that's so hard to handle, is we have kids in public and private schools that become the bully after having been bullied. And there's a similar correlate with sexual abuse, because children who have been molested by adults or older children oftentimes then start to mirror that behavior. So,
Bonnie, we're almost out of time. When in cases where the school doesn't report, when there was a reasonable doubt, what is the penalty? I mean, I'm appalled that in this case that somebody is trying to keep this out. What if you can prove that somebody should have reported and they didn't, what can happen to them?
Well, it's a misdemeanor for failure to report, and it's punishable, I believe, with up to a year in jail. I don't think you see it happening as a practical matter, and we could talk about, why that is. But that's what I was getting to next, was kind of, what to report and to whom and so on. And this area of neglect is really as important in some cases as, kind of more overt, active physical abuse. But I bring this up because I feel like it's one of those unpleasant things that we need to be educated about, given the stats on the reasons that disabled kids are more vulnerable to predation. So once we get this out of the way, we'll have much cheerier topics for 2018, but we're going to finish this because it's important. So we'll finish it next time.
Okay. I thank you so much, Bonnie, for this good information. It is important that we know, and especially for our autism in the classroom, it's so important that teachers understand. Usually they have to go through a class to be a mandated reporter, but they understand the consequences, not only for the kid, but there are consequences that do go on teachers, especially because in years past we've seen that and heard the stories and read the books about kids who had gone through years and years and years of abuse, and then finally one teacher stood up and said, I see this isn't right, and it saved a life in more ways than one can count. But Bonnie, I want to thank you for being a tireless fighter for our kids and for our community. And I hope that 2018 brings you nothing but peace, joy, happiness, and abundance.
What a nice wish. I'm going to send you a text message right now. Maybe we can figure out a way to finish this before the new year.
That would be awesome. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we continue on with Autism Live after these messages. Stick with us.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. For the month of December, we're going to be making wrapping paper. The skills we'll be focusing on today are pattern making, which is an academic skill. While you're doing this, you can also work on colors and shapes with your child. The materials you'll be needing are brown paper bag, paint, water, paintbrush, a tray or paper plate, paper towel, a sharp knife, which the adult will be the only one using, scissors, cookie cutters, and potatoes. And of course, you can always use pre-made stamps or sponges to use. All right, let's get to it. The first thing you want to do is you're going to take your potato and you're going to cut it in half. So now I've got 2 stamps I could possibly use. So I'm going to make a star, and you can always do this freehand. I like the cookie cutters because it makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to take the cookie cutter, I'm going to squish that in there. Then I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to cut along the edge, and then I'm going to pop it out. And voila! Now that I've done this, I'm going to peel out the potato and pull this out, and ta-da! There's my star. I'll be taking my recyclable paper bag and cutting it open. I'm just cutting along the edge. Now that I have this done, I'm going to remove the handles, like so. And then here you are. All right, now that I have this ready, it's a great time to have the kids join in. So I'm grabbing my reusable plate, and while you're squeezing out the paints to use, this is a great time to have your kids label the different colors and to discuss how to mix the colors together to make secondary colors. Now that I have my paint and my stamps ready, well, now it's time to start making the fun patterns. So I've got my piece of paper in front of me. I'm going to take my star stamp and I'm going to just dip it in the green paint I just mixed. See that there? And now I'm going to place it onto my paper. Depending on the skill level of your child, when you grab your stamps, you can ask them to label the shapes. You can start making the pattern, and I can ask my child questions like, what comes next? Or have them come up with the pattern themselves, just straight from their head. Here are a few examples of wrapping paper that I completed today. When you complete your wrapping paper, again, I hope you take a photo of it and share it with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/autismlive. I look forward to seeing them and seeing you next month. Bye.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. We've been sharing a lot of fun things with you, toys and the like, and sometimes you need a palate cleanse, right? So we have a special treat for you today. Christina Adams is joining us via Skype, and you guys know Christina because she's a regular here on the show. We do Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams. She's the author of A Real Boy, one of my favorite books having to do with autism. And Christina's a bit of a world traveler. She came to us a few months ago and we had a sit down where we talked about Cuba, which was fascinating. A lot has happened in Cuba since then. But recently, Christina went to India it seemed like you were gone forever, Christina, and you were posting some pictures while you were gone, but we both agreed we needed to get you in studio talking a little bit about what you were doing there. And I love getting these checkups from you about what autism is like in different places in the world. So first of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Always glad to be here, Shannon.
It's such a thrill. So how long were you in India? It seemed like you were gone forever.
I was there for quite a while. It's such a long trip that you want to make the most of it. But it turned out that I actually had quite a few events there. So honestly, probably about 3.5 weeks.
So it was a long time. It was a very long time. Now, let's start with why. Why did you go? Why did you say, hey, I want to go to India in the first place? What was it about India? I mean, it's exotic and it's fabulous, but what really drew you to it?
Well, I was lucky enough to visit India in 2009, and ever since then, I've been dying to go back. And as my work with autism and camel milk, of course, has progressed, I have heard from so many people all around the world. And India is a place that they were very interested in camel milk because they do have camels there. It's actually the heritage animal of Rajasthan, which is the legendary home of palaces and deserts and all the beautiful imagery you associate with India. The camel's the state animal, but like all the other camel countries, a lot of the people have lost touch with camel milk. So now that people are kind of aware of this as a first-line kind of easy therapy, that they want to try it that way, then I hear from them. And what that does is open up the world of autism as far as me being able to assist them. So people that are in the professional realm ask me to come over and help raise awareness not only of camel milk, but how autism families can get help for their children and raise awareness of, the value of the pastoral people that provide camel milk, but also how autism is a growing issue around the world. And so I'm able to, give all the help, guidance that I can give them when I'm over there also talking about camel milk.
Well, and for people who don't know, you are an autism mom. You've written a book, A Real Boy, about your journey in the early years of autism with your son. But I cannot wait, and I know you've been talking about and kind of working on, I don't want to say anything, but there better be a new book soon, because your story, quite honestly, somebody needs to make a movie. Because how a United States autism mom ends up being one of the pivotal people in talking about camel milk around the world, that's an exciting story. I'm telling you. And I know parts of the story, but somebody needs, you need to get the book because somebody needs to write the movie and get this movie done. And there are actresses that are dying to play you. So I'll say that. But and it's not just me that thinks this is fascinating. The world does. In fact, Samantha's got a clip that shows when you arrived in India, some of the newspapers we're talking about this because it's a great story. How does this American mom, what's the story with her and camel milk and autism? And I love this. First of all, look at you on that TV screen. It's just amazing the difference that you're making around the world. It gives me goosies. So you went to you went to India, you arrived, and when there was all this fuss about you, had you known that there was going to be a big stir about you being there, or was that a little bit of a pleasant surprise?
It was not anything that one could ever expect. So I had been invited to come by the LPPS, the League of Pastoral Peoples, and they're national, it's called an NGO, which is kind of a non-governmental organization is what that means. People, they're just basically trying to help people around the world. And so they had been aware of my work, and then once they invited me, then other people kind of got into wanting to have me come and speak. So when I landed there, just spent one night in Mumbai, on our way, because that was a very long trip from America. And so then I was going to Jaipur, which is a very important city in Rajasthan, and it's the capital. And so I did not expect that I would get right off the plane and go straight to a TV studio and do a shoot with a show. It was actually a 1-hour show with one of their top broadcasters there and journalists. And that was a wonderful experience. It was quite head-turning in its speed, but it went really well, I think. So the next day, we had an event, and it turned out that the TV show hadn't even aired yet, but the first newspaper article had come out in the Rajasthan Patrika, which is the 8th largest newspaper group in India, I believe. And so people just came to that event, which was supposed to be relatively small, and they just came and came and came, and they had an overflow crowd. There were all kinds of people that were interested in it, and even there were people outside listening on loudspeakers. And I am not alone, of course, on that stage. There are some really legendary people in the camel world. There is a scientist who has shown that camel milk helps with the diabetes situation in Rajasthan, and probably beyond that. There was a government minister of animal husbandry. There was the Dr. Ilsa, who was a person I've worked with before, who was a Rolex Award winner for her work in helping the camel herding people, and some other people there. But when we all spoke and the event was over, it's hard to explain it. The autism families basically just came up to the stage and just pushed their way up to the stage, and in a very polite way. They were great people, but just overwhelmed. There was crowds. There were people yelling and grabbing the microphone to try to get their questions out. And I had to say, please, I'll try to help all of you. And they were going to have a reception after, but they had to cancel that because there were so many people there. So that just shows all of us in the autism world what the need is for people to have information.
Absolutely. And then you spent some time with some herders, but it was a fair of some sort. Talk to us about that.
One of the reasons that I got to come over there too was because there's a really famous thing called the Pushkar Camel Fair. And of course, ever since I got into this camel world a few years ago, when I realized that giving my son camel milk helped his autism symptoms by 30%, as I've said before, I've known about this legendary Pushkar Camel Fair where all these people bring their camels to trade and sell them, and horses come in, and it's just a really huge event. And there have been thousands and thousands and thousands of camels there in the past. So this year, when I finally get to go, I wanted to find out what was going on with the camel situation. Unfortunately, the camel is dropping in its use and its ability to exist in Rajasthan. So there I am sitting on the ground with the Raika people. And I've communicated with Raika people before, and so it was great to meet them in person. And I'm hearing about their struggles because these are people that believe that they were created, they're a special caste, that believe they were created by Lord Shiva to take care of camels. It's their modus operandi in life. And so now that camels have been kind of restricted in their movements and their uses by some laws that are well-intentioned, I'm sure, but it's like most laws, it takes a while to work things out. Unfortunately, there's not an economic use for camels anymore. So this fair was very sad because last year there were 10,000 camels. This year the official count was, I think, around 2,800.
Wow.
So it was very depressing.
Huge difference. But you also got to spend some time with people in the village and some of the women and learning about their lifestyle. We have a couple of pictures that we want to show of you talking with the women in the village. And then we want to I love the clothes. I mean, I said this to you, but when you were setting the pictures, that the clothes that I want to start dressing this way. I just want to say that. It had to have been comfortable and cool, and yet you're sheltered from the sun. It's just, and I love the colors and the prints and being able to wear 2 different color prints. Was it liberating for you?
It was fantastic, and I always did like Indian clothes since I discovered them, but before I went, I said, well, what's the proper dress for me to wear? And they said, well, really, Indian people appreciate it if you wear their clothing. It makes them feel like you're, taking notice of them and trying to, show oneness with them. And I was like, great, because I love their clothing. I have some, but I have more. So, yes, I did, and it was comfortable. It was great, and they are so great with style. The whole country, so many people just have so much beauty around them that their heritage crafts have taught them to appreciate and to integrate into their decor. So the buildings have these beautiful touches, the people have beautiful touches, and their concept, I learned a few things about dressing, was it should have contrast. And it should not be matchy-matchy all the time. So, color blocking is about the best that we've been able to do over here, but that's nothing compared to the way that they can integrate color and pattern. And also every day you put on a beautiful scarf, which is called a dupatta. And so you have that kind of nice feminine element. You have garments that are comfortable and they can be very flattering, but they don't show everything. And you don't generally show your legs in Indian society. So personally, as somebody, that likes to wear whatever I want to wear, including pants or dresses, I like having like a dress on, but then also kind of pants underneath it. Gives you kind of a nice ease of comfort, like if you're going to get down on the ground with people, if you're going to move around, climb in and out of, the auto rickshaws or on a motorbike, as a lot of them do, or in a cart, if they're more rural people, then it's very freeing.
I love it. There's a trend now here in the United States that most schools, when girls wear dresses to school, they now have to wear shorts underneath or leggings. And I love that. I would dress that way all the time if I could. So I might, moving forward. But you sent us some video. What are we going to see in this video, Christina?
Okay, so this is when I was on the ground at Pushkar, which of course is a famous place. And here now I'm hanging out with these wonderful guys, almost all men. They did cook for me. It was very kind. And we had a translator, a Rika, a person that I've been communicating with. He translated for us. So I'm kind of realizing the impact of what I'd read about. I was there and I saw how this great heritage is crumbling.
Okay, so let's take a look at that clip.
So we're looking around at how many camels are here this year, and we're told the official count is 2,800, and about 3 or 4 years ago it was around 10,000. So I had heard that the camel business in Rajasthan is struggling, and I'm here today to see that it certainly is. You see a lot of bare ground where there should be nothing but camels, and the brokering is going on right now. Some people are selling the camels, but some people are getting offered such low prices they're not even going to sell them, like these 3 right here. The camel, they were offered 1/3 of the price that he wanted, so it's not worth it to him. He'll try to sell them someplace else.
We keep talking about buying a camel. You and I have talked about how we need to have like a timeshare and people buying a camel. So that's where, not that we want to take advantage of their low prices, but fascinating that, at a time when you're saying these camels and the camel milk from them can help with all kinds of different ailments, that the camel herders are having a crisis and not being able to get money for their camels, and that the industry seems to be shrinking.
But in the United States, in the United States, actually, though, the prices are doubled since I started.
Yeah.
So it's like every country is different. So, and around the world, camels are actually the 3rd fastest growing livestock, and they are doing great. It's just in this particular area that, there's a lot of issues behind it, but we did, I got my boots on the ground there, and then we went forward, and I did speak at some more events where other great people that can contribute to policy were there, and I was really amazed that I got to be around such amazing people that I have admired from a distance for so long.
So this is the Marwar Camel Fair, is that correct, where you spoke?
Yes, it is. And that was the stage. They had a giant tent, and it was attended by so many local Rika herders who herd camel, sheep, and goats. And so they're out in the audience, and then on stage were a lot of policymakers, government people, and then also people like myself that just don't really, it's not an economic thing for me. It's just a passion that I want to see this great creature that has so much to contribute to us survive, because it's being used in other things like the development of cures for snake bite, for STDs, for cancer research. And it's a great animal for global warming. So not only is it benefiting the autism community, its potential is really terrific.
And the interest was there. We're looking now at you in this beautiful golden tent, and you're wearing a beautiful dress. It seems like wherever you went, there were people who were like, give us more information about this. I love this picture. Are these herders?
Those are, yes, they are the Rika people, and there are different, castes as well, but mostly Rika people there. And yes, their whole culture has been formed around camels and the land and grazing and natural type of lifestyle. So it was just an amazing thing to see autism families and professionals, medical professionals for humans and people for camels, come all in one place under one roof. I was thrilled when I was there, because it's just one of those things you could never predict in life, that you will be able to bring such disparate communities together and try to help each one. And by the way, that photo was a family that had driven really far to see me. A lot of them had. And this lovely child, he has quite a few autism things to deal with. I personally can see that he's bright and he has potential, but they have never had behavioral help. They have never had a lot of interventions. So right now, I was already able to connect them to a parenting program.
What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing. And then, as you did when you were in Cuba, you did a little bit of recon to try to see what's happening with these kids, what kind of therapies are they getting, where are they in school, and you found a pretty amazing place. Tell us about it.
Well, I was so lucky that when this organization, they found out that I was going to come, and they had a conference. So they were actually having a national conference. It was bigger than I expected. So first they invited me to visit their school, and it is the school for multiply handicapped children, or multiply disabled children. People don't really say handicapped too much anymore, even though some parts of the world they still do. But here they say, a resource center for multiple disabilities. So they have done incredible things, and they're doing amazing things with people that have, the children and young adults that have multiple disabilities. So this is the inside of Disha. It's quite an impressive building. And they also have things like speech therapy, physical therapy, aquatic therapy. And yeah, there's a speech therapist. He's very talented. They're using computers. They're using a program to get the child to interact and talk back and push, volume out of his voice. They have, the visual teaching aids. And what I think was also really cute was that culturally, you notice that they have to learn different things than we do. So there's some Hindi, I assume, and then they have to learn what's a monkey, what's a cockatoo, a parrot. There's a milk jug that milk is taken around the city in. So it's the same concept of teaching, of course, that we might use over here if you're using like a picture visual system. But it's just kind of cute. It just tells how we all basically have the same needs, no matter if our environment is different around the world.
Absolutely. And in general, when in this trip, you were there for almost a month. Beautiful, beautiful country, but a country that's not without its challenges. What was your takeaway from this place?
Well, India is, a very, very, very large place, and it's had quite a history. It's been influenced by different cultures like the Mughal culture many years ago, which has given way to, the arches and some Islamic type influence that makes some beautiful palaces. which I was lucky to visit some when I squeezed a couple in. And then they also, have colonized by the British for a long time. So it's a collection of states. It's a huge country with a collection of states, and they all have their own identity. So I spent most of my time in Rajasthan and got to know it quite well, considering I'm just a tourist there. But knowing people on the ground that can show you what's going on behind was what made the difference. And so I guess my impression was, of course, of the beauty, the architecture. That's a beautiful temple near Udaipur, which is the city of lakes. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful city as far as its views and palaces. And of course, you drive down the road and you see a monkey here and there, and so it definitely is exotic. And and there the road, there's the highway, and then you have a herd of oxen or water buffalo, or I'm not sure exactly they are from this street view. But yeah, there's animals in the street. There's my driver. He has his guru on the dashboard, and it was beautiful. I got to go to a temple, and amazingly they had an honor for me. They gave me a marigold garland, and kind of thanked me for being there to help people. So I found India, my takeaway, it was amazingly rich, wonderful culture with the food and all that I enjoyed. Yeah. And on the right is a sheep herder meal that the ladies made for me. And on the left is kind of like a truck stop, and say they have even great food at the truck stop. Wow. But I also find it to be a very spiritual place, and that's a cliche, but I'll say that people were very, they never hesitated to express like their take on the emotional value of the work that I was there to do, wishing me luck, and trying to, say that they hope that people with disabilities can be, integrated into society. They do kind of have an awareness of that, that they overlay into their dealings, at least with me in the limited time that I had with them. And people were very emotionally connecting things with their daily life and what I was doing there. So that was nice.
Well, and have we talked about the fact that you spoke at the disability conference at Disha yet? Did we already talk about that? I don't remember if we did. Because
yeah.
Let's definitely talk about that. But I also want to say too, since we're on this other subject, is that I think it's very easy, especially at this time of the year, to get caught up in other things, right? And and literally get caught up in things. And what's always interesting to me when you visit us and you talk about these faraway places that I can only imagine. I'm not a world traveler, bless you, because I love to look at the pictures, but I'm somebody who likes to stay home. But I love hearing about these different and exotic places, but hearing that there's a taproot that we're all the same. And when I hear that there are families in India that have, there are friends that we have that watch the show, and they talk about the resources that they don't have, but they're building up more and more, and to see that there is a school and that there is a program and there is a plan makes me really happy, and reminds me that we might be in different places, but a lot of times we're dealing with the same core issues. And that's important for us to remember at all times of the year. But so talk to us a little bit about, you spoke at Disha.
Yes, Disha, what an amazing group of women have thrown their social capital and their intellect, which is remarkable, behind starting this school in Jaipur. So they've been at it for a few years, and it's just amazing. So they actually had the resources to put together this conference, which, even though it's in a region, it was a national conference. And there were government ministers, there were many speeches, there was much tea drunk. It was a very large conference, and I have to say it was kind of a groundswell that led to this, because there's more and more awareness of disabilities. Autism was just one issue at this conference, but everybody gave up and gave their kind of position statement that the government needs to do this, and some of the ministers are like, yes, we need to do this, we want to raise awareness. So early stage, but the importance of the gesture, and then all the practical information that was given later at the conference when the government statements were given. Later there were the boots on the ground type of presentations given. it was probably a landmark for the area.
Amazing. So just to recap, you went and you were part of a larger discussion about disabilities and autism, and you were there and connected with people about camel milk and the importance of using camel milk for different medicinal uses. But you also, one of the things we sort of skipped over when we were talking about the issue with the camels is that you were a part of making a statement to the government about helping the camel herders, correct?
Yes, I was very fortunate that when I was at the Marwar Camel Festival, other people had put a great deal of effort into this policy paper, but I was invited to go on the stage and with the other group, and we presented the draft of this so the media could see it and people are aware of, the value. So it's sort of the attempt to, it's a policy paper to show how we can save the Rajasthan heritage animal. So let's see if it falls on some, ears that are receptive. And I think that with the media we got and people being aware of how camel milk is just one thing that could be a valuable economic resource, and it could help so many people, both the people that produce it and the people that need it, then there may be some groundswell there. So we're looking forward right now to see what's going to happen out of that. Wow. And at the DSHA conference, yes, I did give a presentation on autism and camel milk, but I also talk about autism a little bit for the people that aren't really aware of autism, but they're starting from behind us there. So my whole goal was to raise awareness of autism and how important it is that the people that have autism are wonderful kids or adults, and that they have great potential. And then the families need the support, the children themselves need the support, and that no one will regret helping them because it's such a great value to society.
Well, you're such an amazing person, Christina, and you lead a very exciting life that is very well deserved and earned. And I love that you are going to these places and doing this work. I think that it's really super. We're looking forward to, in 2018, spending some more time with you. You've got a very exciting film that's a documentary that's about your son that's going to be coming out, and we're going to have you back on the show and maybe even have him on the show to talk about this lovely short film, and that's going to be coming up in January. So we thank you for all that you do and for dropping by to tell us about it. Where can people go if they want to get more information about you, about camel milk, or your trip in India?
Well, I have a website just because people wrote me so often. I decided I need to have one, and it's ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com. ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com. You can message me through there. I'm also on Facebook, and I get my messages through there. And you can email me too. And my email is cadams@xiqllc.com, and I'll love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for all that you do. I just adore you and think that you are amazing. And don't forget, you guys, A Real Boy. If you haven't read it yet, man, get it now so that when she comes out with the second book, you'll know, okay, that's where we were and this is where we are, because it's kind of an amazing journey. And I think you got to look out for who's going to make the film.
I would like to look out for anything could happen, because I know so many people need the information. It's just difficult to get a message that's, not the normal message out there. But yes, I'll do my best.
It's an amazing story. Your story is an amazing story. But first, we're going to talk about, in January, we're going to talk about the documentary made about your son. So we'll come back in January for that. But thank you. And if I don't see you beforehand, happy holidays and happy New Year.
Okay, and same to you, and happy holidays to you and everyone at Autism Live.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. We're going to take a break, and then we are going to be back with more Autism Live. Stick with us.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids, takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
No, I can't help you pee. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step two is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time. We can come play after. Hurry.
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Uh-oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Woo! Yay! Good job. What a big boy. High five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I've been talking about these things. This is one of the most amazing things. If you've got a new baby in your life, or a new baby on the way, or somebody that's having a baby, you've got to get a Yowie baby. These are truly fabulous. And joining us via Skype right now is Jillian Lackritz from Yowie Baby. Jillian, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I just love these so much. I can't stand it, how much I love these. And I want to talk a lot about all the different things I love about them, but let's start with talking about what is it, and how did this come into being?
Okay. So Yowie Baby is an interactive developmental toy designed for bonding and play beginning on day one. So, at the essence of it is that, how do we play with a baby who can't sit up and grasp or move around? Right now, there's a rattle that maybe you could shake in baby's face, or at best a plush toy that they could bat it with their hands, or a lot of very static playthings, visual stimuli like a mobile. But there are no toys out there designed for interactive play with a newborn. And we believe that babies were born to play, and science tells us that how we interact and play with our newborns affects how our brains are formed and actually lays the foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. So if you're a new mom or dad or a caregiver, it's critically important to get playtime right. And that's why we invented Yoi Baby this is a tool that is super intuitive and naturally engages babies in the kinds of playful, nurturing, brain-building interactions that science tells us we need to thrive. And the toy was inspired by caressing a baby with a feather. There's a little bit of a backstory behind that. When I was a new mom, about 3 months after my first was born, I woke up out of what I like to call survival state. Those first 3 months when you figured out just how to keep them alive, change a diaper, get them to sleep, nurse them. And I looked at this precious little infant and I thought, now what? I had a previous professional experience in early childhood education. And I knew from that experience that the critical windows for cognitive development were 0 to 3. And so I knew I was supposed to be doing something with her, but I didn't know what to do. And I had this basket full of toys that was completely useless, again, for a baby who was so young and wasn't interactive and wasn't grasping and wasn't sitting up and really engaging. So I really struggled to figure out a developmentally appropriate activity. One day I read about an activity that said if you can grab a swatch of velvet or a piece of silk or a feather boa and caress your baby's body with it, it's good for body awareness and sensory development. And I wasn't a particularly crafty mom, and I didn't have any of those, that stimuli laying around, and so I never did that. And one day I came across an ostrich feather that was in a drawer, and I thought, oh, I can try that activity. And so I took the feather and I started sort of running it across her face and her belly and her toes, and her eyes started fluttering and she started cooing. And as a new mom, it was this totally transformative moment for me, because it was the first time that I felt like I was engaging her in just a purely joyful interaction. It was beyond me just meeting her basic needs. It was just pure, unadulterated sensory joy. And I guess it hadn't really occurred to me prior to that to do that with her. And I knew I was doing something good for her development. And it was an activity that we both loved to do, and so we got lost in that for quite some time. So that became our special and sort of favorite activity to do together, because it was so much fun for both of us. And now suddenly she's 6 months old, she's taking the feather, she's putting it in her mouth, and I knew a feather wasn't baby safe, and that if she ate it, we'd both probably be in some big trouble. And that's where the idea for Yoi Baby was born. What if we could make a baby-safe feather out of those irresistibly touchable fabrics like silks and velvets and velours? And that was the original idea for Yoi Baby.
Well, and we're looking at some beautiful pictures of babies just loving on their Yoi Babies. And we're going to talk a lot more about all the incredible things, because you can see right now the baby there is got the teether in their mouth. There are many elements to this toy, but Jillian, where can people go to get Yoi Baby?
Yeah, we are now in about 300 specialty toy stores across the country. There's a store locator on our website at www.yoibaby.com. We also sell on Amazon, so if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get a Yoi Baby free 2-day Prime shipping. And you can also buy Yoi Babies on yoibaby.com.
And they're just the cutest thing ever. I want to pause for just a second to show the folks at home a short video about Yoi Baby, and then we're going to come back and talk about why I think this particular toy is so amazing for the autism community. So take a look at this.
What if you could create a baby-safe feather out of irresistibly touchable fabrics? This is so much more than a toy. This is a toy and a tool that helps us develop and connect and grow together.
It naturally engages babies in these really important interactions, the kinds of interactions that science tells us that babies need to thrive.
We have loved sharing our prototypes with new parents because it opens up a whole new way to start playing together from the very beginning.
It really is the only toy you need for your baby.
As a working mom, it's taken me a number of years to bring this project to life.
We have talked to so many people.
Early childhood development experts,
Neuroscientists,
pediatricians,
daycare professionals,
and most importantly, countless moms, dads, and babies. And with all of their input, we have created the ultimate baby toy.
It's the ultimate baby toy because in addition to all the playfulness, interaction, and bonding and stimulation you get from this one toy, it can also soothe your baby to sleep. It's amazing.
Okay, welcome back. You just saw an incredible video about this amazing toy fabulousness that I have in my hands. This is a Yowie baby. This right here is the little doggy, but you're seeing him a little bit differently because we shoot on a green screen, so he looks a little brown, but he's actually very green. And you got to see some of the different Yowie babies. I've got here the little kitty and the package doggy. And Jillian, you have a fox there, right?
I do. This is our latest addition to the Yowie Baby family. This is actually Joan the Fox, and she just hit the market Thanksgiving week, and she's really fun. We also have, I noticed you didn't have our monkey there,
Yes.
and we have a bunny that should be with us starting in about March.
And they're all as adorable as they can be. Remember, these are sensory toys for very young babies. And they do all different kinds of things. If we can just talk for a second about, down here at the bottom, this is a fabulous teether, which all of our kids are going to want. You mentioned before that it rattles. I don't know if you guys can hear, as I put it close to my mic, that it rattles. And so when you're let's just talk about this time of year when you're trying to get a decent picture and you want to get the baby's attention and you want to have a noise to go. Perfect thing, Yowie baby. It's got the feather part, which you can stroke the babies with. It's fabulous. And then there are crinkly parts to him that I just love. His ears are crinkly. Their little butts are crinkly. They're just so, and they're soft. And adorable, and just so many different things that you can do with a baby. And you were talking before about how sometimes, people have different age ranges of kids that they like. And I've heard people say before, well, I like them when they're toddlers because they're just so much more interactive when they're toddlers. And a lot of times people just don't know how to play with a baby. But this is like the lightsaber of babydom. It is like all you need to do is have this and you'll find all kinds of different things to do with the baby. The baby will grab a hold. You were saying before about stroking their heads. Amazing, amazing toy for absolutely any baby. And really that's what you invented this for, correct? Any baby.
I mean, at the heart of it, the most important thing for us is that this is about creating the kinds of playful, nurturing interactions that lead to a feeling of connection, that ultimately lead to strong bonds. And we know that beyond, first of all, let me just say that we want people to play with it because it is just so much fun to play with. That's really the most important thing, is the play value of this toy. And you were talking about what makes it a great sort of all-in-one toy for a baby. It's got everything you need to play with baby at this stage of life. But the more that we can get new parents and caregivers engaging in those playful, nurturing interactions, that's what stimulates strong neural connections in our brain. And it also stimulates that feeling of bonding and connection that is so important beginning, like I say, at day one. I think a lot of us, if you don't know, you don't think your baby's necessarily ready to start playing from day one. But in fact, that's the most important time to start playing. And I don't think that the market has really done a very good job of innovating tools in the form of toys that encourage us as new parents to start playing from day one. So at the heart of it, that's what it's all about. The more that we can get everyone connecting and playing and bonding, the healthier we think families will be.
Absolutely, and I want to take it a step further, and this is one of the reasons why we gave this an award, our autism-live top toy and guide for 2017. We gave this the Sensory Toy Award for the year for babies. because when you take a look at all of the things that have to happen for someone to gain social skills across a lifetime, and if you take it all the way back to the beginning, one of the first things that has to happen is that we need for a baby to give their attention to something and for them to be able to track attention, right? This toy is brilliant for that. But, and a lot of babies can do that, and that isn't a problem, but we can always strengthen it. But then later on, we get to something that we talk about here on Autism Live all the time, which is joint attention. And that is the main, you know, it's like that building block, what's it called in an arch, the building block that you have to have or the whole thing falls apart.
Keystone, yeah.
The keystone, exactly, the keystone. It's the keystone to every single social skill that comes later on. And if you don't have joint attention, you're gonna struggle with social skills. So for all of you that are out there and are thinking, okay, you know, I have a child who's on the autism spectrum and I've got a new baby or I'm thinking about having a baby, and I want to make sure that I do everything that I can because I know that my chances of having another child on the autism spectrum are great. I'm just going to say to you, one of the greatest things you can do is early on strengthen that joint attention. And this is a joint attention tool, ladies and gentlemen, because you can use it for those beginning tracking things and they reach out for it, which is another skill that's so important for social skills. But joint attention is when you and I look at each other and then we look at something else and then we look back at each other to have a reaction to it. And this is perfect for that for babies. And we talk all the time about how our kids sometimes will develop and get to a certain point and then they don't develop, and each day that they don't develop, they lose skills. But if we can there are studies that are being done about this and have been done about this. If you can prevent your child from getting behind, there's every reason to think that there will never be an autism diagnosis. I'm telling you that I think that this is one of the greatest preventative tools that has been made for us for this age range. Yoey baby, you got to have one.
1 second and just share with you for your audience. We have a great video on our website, which is the how-to video, how to get the most out of playtime with your Yoey baby. And it really shows step by step all the different types and styles of interactions that a Yoey baby is great for. So you'll see that joint attention, eye tracking, language development, fine and gross motor skills, sensory interactions. There's another thing that is really important, and a lot of the new science tells us is sort of fundamental again to helping to create strong bonds, which are so important, which is what's called a serve and return interaction. So when a baby looks at an adult caregiver, and that adult caregiver responds to the baby, you start this sort of virtuous cycle called serve and return, where the baby is serving up a response to something in their environment, in their world, or something you've done, and the adult is returning it. And through those interactions, that baby is learning all sorts of fundamental and critical information about themselves and the world around them and how they fit into that environment. So the toy, in addition to the joint attention, it really, again, sort of naturally and intuitively engages babies in those important serve and return interactions.
It's really amazing, and it's just as cute as it can be. And you've got several to choose from. And what a great thing, always when we're out and about with our kids, you take them and you've got the diaper bag, but we all want that diaper bag to be as small as possible and weigh as little as possible. And I don't know about you, but I used to carry around a zipper bag full of toys so that when one got less reinforcing, then I would pull out, something else. And I have back problems to this day from lifting my kid and lifting the diaper bag, right? You can put this in the diaper bag and you're good to go. Because there are, yes?
Yeah, sorry. I'll tell you another great use for it is travel.
Yeah.
So we always travel with a Yoey baby on us, and I can't tell you how many plane rides we've been applauded for helping soothe or calm a fussy baby. So if you have any airline travel, on your calendar, this is a fantastic tool that will help sort of, calm and soothe or keep baby entertained. It has so many different uses.
They're totally fabulous. Remind us again, where can we get them?
You can get them at specialty toy stores around the country. Go to yoebaby.com and you can look for our store locator. You can also order them directly on our website, yoebaby.com, and they're also available on Amazon.
And I'm playing with mine. I just love them. Jillian, good job. Good on you. These are fabulous. Really want to recommend them. They're great for all babies, but especially if you've got a child in the family or family members that have a child on the autism spectrum and you're looking to do everything that you can, put this at the top of your list when you have a baby and start playing with them in this way. I guarantee you that it's going to be good for them. I love my little doggy. Jillian, thank you so much, and thank everybody at Yoey Baby. You were so generous with the Yoey Babies. We gave these away at our Sensitive Santa event, and they were a humongous hit, which is why I don't have a monkey on the desk. But they were absolutely fabulous, and we thank you so much. There's the monkey. Oh, look at how green he is. He's fabulous.
He's really fun.
I
He's
love him.
a little friend here.
Fabulous. And I love the fox too. So get yourselves a Yoey Baby. Thank you so much, Jillian.
Thank you.
And we're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, you know, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
This is Logan Shepard. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepard is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepard now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are totally out of time, so we've got to say goodbye for now, but I just want to thank you all for being with us on a regular basis. We have one more week of shows left, and I know I've been promising you that we were going to have Dr. Granpeesheh here. She is scheduled to be here next Wednesday. We're going to do a full live show. Nancy and I are going to be back to do Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and we've got a very special guest who's going to join us from the company that is the Safety Sleeper. We've been raising money around here, and I can't give away too much, but on Wednesday we are going to have Rose from Safety Sleeper with us, and we're going to be making a wonderful announcement that just totally, I can't even tell you how excited I am. It's one of those holiday miracles that we all look forward to, somebody who's going to get something they've desperately needed for their child. I'm giving a lot away. In any case, then on Thursday, we're going to be back for the final show of the year. You're not going to want to miss it, and we're going to wrap up all the toys that we haven't been able to show you. In fact, we are going to have the creator of My Little House in studio with you, because you know that's one of my favorite toys. And we're going to wind that up, and we might have some other really cool surprises for you as well. So see you back then. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.